The Jewish community of Jerba is one of the last found in the Arab world. Their isolation on this Tunisian island allows them to keep their religious traditions and orthodox practices intact. They are now a community of only 1,000 Jews, a small minority compared to 160,000 of mostly Muslim Jerbians. On this island, Jews and Muslims live in harmony and respect. On the north coast, facing the Mediterranean, is found the most important city of Jerba, the commercial and economic center, Souk. It is built on the ruins of an ancient Roman city called Djerba. The port has witnessed a large number of civilizations: Roman, Carthaginian, Vandal, and Byzantine. The fish market is frequented by both Jews and Muslims. Here, as throughout the island, languages are spoken which reflect the history of coexistence between these two communities and their cultural and economic exchanges for hundreds of years. A mix of Hebrew, Berber, Arabic, French, and Aramaic can be heard. In the Medina, some tailors sew a black ribbon at the bottom of the trousers, a symbol of mourning for the local Jewish population in memory of the destruction of their temple in Jerusalem. The souk is full of jewelry, with shop signs reflecting the diversity of their owners and customers. Most Jerbian Jewish men work in the jewelry business as manufacturers, sellers, or buyers. Youssef Gamoun has owned his shop for over 40 years, preserving the traditions of the community he belongs to.
This is a foot bracelet made by a Jew. The jeweler, Solomon, is inscribed here. A bracelet like this weighs a kilo. Here it's written 1905 on this stamp. It's made by hand. And here are silver bracelets, 2 pieces, each weighing 500 grams, made by the same craftsman, Solomon. And the same stamp, 1905. Before today, there was always a stamp of the master craftsman. It's the work of Jerbians. Everything comes from here. This is for the head. It's to hide hair from behind. And the red color is protection against the evil eye. It's a typical Jewish hat, 100%.
For thousands of years, Jews have worked in Jerba as gold and silversmiths and jewelers, gaining an international reputation for their know-how. To them, jewelry has no hidden secrets. At a glance, they are able to recognize provenance and the makers. Jewish and Muslim brides adorn themselves with ornaments made by these Jewish jewelers, necklaces, earrings, and brooches.
This one is older, very thin, 150 years old, maybe older. It's over. We don't make these kinds of pieces anymore. There are no longer any artisans alive who can make pieces like this.
For centuries, symbols made from silver remain the same: doves, fish, and other representations of fertility. Images shared by both Jewish and Muslim communities. The Jews, since their arrival, work in Humsuk, but they live mainly in two villages, Haraskira, the small district, and Harakabira, the large district. About 20 synagogues and places of religious teaching are found in these two villages. Every Friday, with the appearance of the first star, begins Sabbath, the day of rest for the Jews. And for the next 24 hours, the faithful, like Yusef Gamoun, take a break from their daily life and turn entirely towards the divine. Dominique Jarasset is an historian of art and architecture of synagogues, and particularly those of Tunisia. He has studied the locations of Jewish prayer sites on the island.
The village must be organized for the Sabbath in such a way so that the faithful can go to the synagogue and live their lives during the entire duration of the Sabbath. I would say as if they were in their own home.
In the synagogue, the Torah is carefully stored in the Holy Ark. The Torah, which God entrusted to Moses and his people, contains all God's commandments, as well as the history of the Jews since their beginning. It is the only sacred element which exists in a synagogue.
And here we still have, in Haraskira and Harakabira, an eruv. An eruv is a symbolic enclosure which can be created by a wall. It can be made of a simple wire which surrounds the whole village, even including some houses, so that these houses can be inside the village, forming a symbolic enclosed space in order to comply with the ritual rules of Sabbath. And each of the synagogues is a bit of a marker inside this symbolic space.
On the island, synagogues are discreet and hidden. Their entrance is preceded by two courtyards, a reference to the architecture of the Temple of Jerusalem. These courtyards offer a time for pause, reflection, and introspection before the faithful enter inside. On the Sabbath, the faithful can only come to synagogue on foot. Only men are allowed to enter to listen and participate in reading the Torah. Upon arrival, they attach tefillin to the arm and head. 2 cubic boxes contain 4 passages of the Torah. The leather straps for the arm are placed first, then those on the head.
The reading of the Torah is conducted first and foremost among the faithful. Because of this, the Djerbians have invented a square-shaped design for reading. This configuration means that the teba is in the center and all the faithful are around it, so that they can, of course, hear, and above all, go up to the teba, read, and say a prayer. The result is a circulation of prayer and reading in the synagogue.
As in all synagogues, the Holy Ark always faces towards Jerusalem, a direct reference to the destroyed temple.
Even during the religious ritual sometimes, there are worshippers who are not facing the Torah. That's because the Torah must be heard and not necessarily seen. This is in complete contrast to Christian worship. Here, the faithful may be hidden behind a column and see nothing, but they have what they need, a book for prayer while listening to the text. We may think that they are not participating, but that's totally false. They're present and participating in the service. The synagogues of Jerba always have these types of benches, which are very welcoming for several people to sit upon. And if we look closely at how they are arranged, none are turned in the same direction. So here, we are in a very relaxed atmosphere. But this seating plan doesn't prevent religious rituals from being deeply sacred and profoundly holy.
The reading of the entire Torah takes place during services over the course of a year. According to the ancient rites from Babylonian times, this reading is done using a yad, in Hebrew, hand, which prevents human contact with this sacred parchment. The synagogue is not only a place of prayer, it is also a school and a setting for religious study. The Torah, which in Hebrew means instruction, is taught to men of all generations. The 20 synagogues found in Hara Skira and in Hara Kabira are enclosed within the community, but the synagogue of the Ghriba is isolated. The nearest village is more than 1 kilometer away. This difference may be explained by the legendary origins of its construction. The isolation of this sacred building is not its only peculiarity. This is a strict Orthodox community, and the Ghriba is the only synagogue where the ritual boundaries between men and women are done away with during the pilgrimage. At this time, women may enter the inner part of the synagogue during services.
Women come and they can go wherever they please, and they use the synagogue as they wish. They come, they sit, they pray, they can go to any part of the synagogue. It's a complete contradiction of the normal practice.
There is a traditional custom in this synagogue of hanging silver plaques in memory of a deceased or to thank the Ghriba for having granted wishes. These are placed next to those deposited on the occasion of a bar mitzvah, the Jewish ritual celebrating a boy becoming a man at 13 years old.